Today, visitors to Rome's famed Colosseum can walk in the footsteps of ancient gladiators after a massive restoration.
Artificial intelligence has done what historians, archaeologists, and experts have been trying to do for centuries. And what it uncovered has left experts stunned. Grok AI, Elon Musk's controversial answer to ChatGPT, was handed a challenge no machine had ever faced before. Reconstruct the ancient Colosseum exactly as it stood nearly 2,000 years ago. What came back wasn't just impressive, it was disturbing, because hidden inside Grok's digital model were truths that no one had ever seen before. Clues buried in the ruins, stories erased by time, secrets that force us to ask whether we ever truly understood ancient Rome at all. So what did Grok actually find? And how did a machine see what human experts couldn't for decades? Let's dive in. The challenge. It all started when a team of AI engineers and digital archaeologists decided to push technology to its limits. They wanted to test whether Grok, trained on everything from architectural blueprints to ancient texts, could do what no human had ever managed: recreate the Colosseum exactly as it looked during the time of the Roman Empire. The ruins we see today are fragments of crumbling walls, broken tunnels, and scars left by earthquakes. What remains is essentially a skeleton, a fractured monument that tells only part of the story. For centuries, historians have pieced together the puzzle of ancient texts, faded artworks, and archaeological fragments to imagine what the Colosseum looked like. But there were always gaps, always missing pages in the story of Rome's grandest stage. So the researchers fed everything to Grok. Thousands of documents, every archaeological survey, every measurement taken from the ruins, soil samples, fragments of forgotten poems, even traces of ancient paint still clinging to the marble were given to Grok. And they gave it one command: show us what really stood here years ago. And here's where it gets interesting, because Grok didn't just spit out a pretty picture, but it started asking questions that no one had thought to ask before. Why were certain structural supports placed in seemingly inefficient locations? What explained the unusual wear patterns on specific stone blocks? And how did the Romans control the massive crowds of 50,000 people? Piece by piece, Grok began connecting data points that no human had ever linked before. And when the final reconstruction appeared, even the experts who programmed the model went silent. Because this wasn't the Colosseum anyone expected. This was something far stranger: the Reconstruction. At first glance, the recreation looked familiar: the towering arches, the layered seating, and the vast oval arena bathed in light. But then, as the camera zoomed in, the details changed everything. The most obvious thing was the colors. We've grown used to seeing ancient Rome in shades of white marble and weathered stone. Museums display pale statues. Ruins stand in muted grays and tans. It feels classical, dignified, and timeless. But in Grok's recreation, the Colosseum exploded with color. Vibrant reds, brilliant blues, deep golds gleaming under the Roman sun. The AI had analyzed trace pigments invisible to the naked eye, cross-referenced Roman paint-making techniques, and determined that the Colosseum wasn't just painted, it was practically screaming. Statues that we only know as white marble? Grok showed them in full color, with painted skin tones, gilded hair, jeweled eyes. The effect was jarring, almost tacky by modern standards, but historically accurate in many ways. But the visuals were just the surface. The real shock came from what Grok discovered beneath the arena floor. Historians knew there were underground chambers, the hypogeum. But Grok's model showed something far more advanced, a maze of moving platforms, lifts, and mechanical traps. Not crude wooden devices, but an intricate network of counterweights, pulleys, and gears, the blueprint of a modern stage system built 2,000 years ago. One historian gasped, calling it the world's first machine for spectacle. Another said, "It's as if the Romans built Broadway inside a dungeon." But even that wasn't the most disturbing revelation, because the deeper Grok scanned, the darker the truth became. The dark truth. As researchers dug deeper into Grok's reconstruction, they noticed something disturbing in the underground sections, something that ancient texts had hinted at but never fully described. Hidden rooms, narrow tunnels. Chambers is too small for animals, but too many to be holding cells for gladiators. The data pointed to something far more haunting. These were not just storage spaces, they were living quarters for enslaved workers, the unseen labor powering Rome's greatest show. When archaeologists cross-referenced Grok's findings with overlooked fragments of ancient graffiti and accounting records, a grim picture emerged. Hundreds of men, women, and children lived and died beneath the arena. They operated pulleys, opened trap doors, hauled cages, all while the crowd above roared for blood. Temperatures in those chambers reached over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. There was no light, no air circulation. When one worker collapsed, another replaced him. And the games continued. For centuries, the Colosseum has stood as a symbol of Roman engineering genius. But Grok's reconstruction revealed the human cost buried beneath that genius. It showed that the Colosseum wasn't just an arena. It was a machine built on suffering. Why it matters. Now, historians are debating what this means for the future of archaeology. Because if AI can strip away centuries of bias, then our entire understanding of civilization could be about to change. Textbooks might be rewritten. Museums may need to reconsider how they present ancient civilizations. And maybe, just maybe, history will finally start to look less romantic and more real. But there's a twist here too. Because Grok isn't perfect. It is made by humans, trained on human-generated data, and operates within parameters set by human programmers. Some experts warn that we might be trading one set of biases for another. What we can say is this: Grok has forced us to ask better questions. The bigger picture. This story isn't really about the Colosseum at all. Not entirely, anyway. It's about what happens when machines start reinterpreting human history. Since Grok's Colosseum project, teams have already begun using AI to reconstruct the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, the Library of Alexandria, and even the original Great Pyramid of Giza. Each time, the results challenge long-held assumptions. Each time, the truth is more complex and more uncomfortable. However, the question that remains is whether we should trust artificial intelligence to tell us our own history. Can machines see the past more clearly than we can? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Also, subscribe so you don't miss our future videos like this. Until then, see ya.